Happy Friday, everyone. We got a fun work set for you guys today, and we also have birthdays. Happy birthday, Miranda, Jarod. I hope you guys have an extra special day, and I hope this helps to make it just that more special. Before we get to that, let's talk about a warm-up. Warm-up is going to consist of a dynamic triangle for 3 to 5 a side, windmill for 3 to 5 a side, single-legged morning with rotation for 3 to 5 a side, standing lunge for 3 to 5 a side, and a plank to bear squat for 3 to 5 reps. 2 rounds of that, and that's going to give you a really good opportunity to work on some rotation, open up the T-spine, really start waking things up, and just give yourself a chance to check the body over to see what's tight, what might need a little bit more attention, and just get you prepped. After that, we're going to move into a humeral glide to knee push-up for 3 to 5, floor facing angel, 3 reps at a 5-second hold, into our laying arm extension for 5 to 10, and a prone shoulder raise for 6 to 10 alternating reps for 2 rounds. So taking that time just to fire up that press, really wake up that upper body a little bit and get things ready for some things in the work set. After, we're going to work a practice round, and I'll have a couple different variations of movements in that practice round if you'd like to follow that, or if you want to kind of create your own. Really what we're trying to achieve here is just to get the heart rate up, plus work on a few finer skills that's coming up in the work set. So take advantage of that, really work those pieces, and make sure we're ready before we start that clock timer. Now the workout today is 3 rounds. We have a continuously running clock, so it's kind of like an on the minute, but it just continues to run. So there's no transition time, there's no rest in between movements. It's all kind of eating into the next movement. So the first exercise, the one that we're going to get the full front of the minute work, is the burpee. So we're going to do a minute of burpees for max reps. Moving into the next exercise, dumbbell sumo deadlift high pull. You are going to alternate every 5 reps, and then you're going to try and get as many reps as you can in that minute time frame. You'll move on to the next exercise, which is going to be a vertical jump. So we're going to show you that really cool kind of rebound power jump that we're going to work on today, and you're going to work on that for max reps. Again, you don't have to use the entire minute with this. I would rather see you guys do some smaller sets, little rest, small set, little rest, to kind of work on form and technique and make sure we're keeping those jumps clean. All right? Our next exercise is a nice steady state lunge, alternating reps back and forth, and then you get a full minute off. So you get 1 minute, and then we go back to the top of the list, do it all over again. So each round is 5 minutes long. So the workout's going to take 15 minutes, counting that rest minute as well. Okay? So our goal, max reps, whatever we can put out in that time frame that we have, remembering that our transition is going to eat into the next minutes, or the next exercise's minute. So if we take a moment and go, after the burpees before we pick up the dumbbell for the sumo deadlift high pull, so be it, all right? We have to take that time, or we get right into it, rest a little bit, and then continue doing what we can do. So we have that time to do what we got. We're gonna have a fun time with this one, you guys. I hope you guys enjoy a little bit of maximal effort here. It's gonna be a good day. So let's get you prepped, let's get you ready, let's take on the day. The feet under those hips, we're gonna take the arms big and tall up overhead. We're just gonna stretch it over to one side. We're gonna stretch it over to the other side. We're gonna come back up overhead. We're gonna shrug those shoulders up. We're gonna pull those shoulders back down and forward fold. We'll touch those toes, walk up the shins, nice flat back. We'll come down, planting both hands. We're gonna step back into our plank, pulling the ribs in, pushing the shoulders to the ceiling. Let's pull the hips back into our down dog. Finding that nice back position, we'll come back into our plank, and then pull back up into that down dog, and then come back into that plank. We're gonna step a foot up into our lizard. Inside hand's gonna reach up. We're gonna rotate forearm to the floor. Finding that good rotation, come back up. Opening up to that T, rotate, coming back up, and rotating into that nice movement set here. Big flow to the sky, plant that hand, step back into our lovely plank, holding that good strong position. We'll pull back into that down dog. We'll come back into that plank, pulling the ribs in, back into that down dog, and then come back into that plank. This time I'm going to step that other foot up. Inside hand is going to reach way up to the sky. We're going to rotate forearm to the floor. We'll come back up. We'll rotate forearm to the floor if you can. Back up. And rotate forearm to the floor. And back up. We'll plant that hand. We're going to step back into our plank. Nice and tight. Pull the hips back into that down dog. Come back into that plank. Pull back and up into that down dog. Work on those shoulders. Come back into that plank. Tiptoe those feet up. Roll yourself up. Big stretch. Little reach to one side. Little reach to the other side. Come back down with the arms. Let's get you fired up. All right, now, if you need to do a little bit more kind of gentle, personalized warm-up, please do so. Take the time to get yourself ready. I'm gonna get you guys ready with that first phase of our warm-up. But pause the video, take down what you need to, then come join me for what's to follow. All right, we're gonna start off our day with some dynamic triangle again. We're gonna get our feet into our sumo. We're gonna turn a toe and turn a toe so our feet are set up and our hips are open on this angle. Hand is gonna be to the thigh. We're gonna reach to the ceiling. Pulling the hip back to the heel. We're trying to find that good hinge, keeping that hand in that good overhead position the entire time. So that arm is always reaching to the ceiling. The entire time, just pushing to the sky, taking our time as we flow down that shin and find our positioning. So super, super important that we focus on that upper body engagement as we work on that lower body hinge. And it's going to be a nice way to get that upper body and T-spine open, plus working on a little bit of looseness through those hips. From there, we're going to continue working on the upper body and that lower body in our windmill. So we're going to work on setting those feet up in the sumo stance again, reaching one hand to the ceiling, pushing one arm down to the floor. Now we're going to pull the hip back, but we're going to rotate at the low rib as we continue to lower down towards the ground. As we do this, we're trying to maintain this good shoulder position. So this shoulder is isolated and moving with the torso. It's not moving on its own accord as we internal and externally rotate. We're setting in that externally rotated position and then maintaining as we go. So take your time with this. This is not a fast movement, nor should we be trying to do it quickly. We're just trying to take that body down and move well through that rotation and that hinge. From the windmill, we're going to bring our feet underneath of our hips, and we're going to continue to work a little bit of, again, lower body movement plus upper body rotation. So we're going to get one heel in front of the toe. We're going to squeeze our glutes. We're going to pull the hip back, and then we're going to rotate at the low rib as we move towards that lead leg. And we're just going to work on that gentle rotation. So we squeeze, we pull back, feeling that hamstring say hello, rotate, and then come back tall. So the big thing here is if you can't touch that knee, that's okay. That's all good. Just take it to where you can in that rotation. And with the leg, we want to make sure that we're feeling that engagement and that sensation through that upper hamstring, lower glute. If we're feeling it in the lower portion of the leg, just really think about engaging through those glutes before we start the hinge, and that should bring the sensation up into that upper hamstring. After our single leg good morning with rotation, we're going to work on some lunging skill. So in this lunge skill, we're going to set ourselves up in our squat stance, and we're going to step, and we're going to step. So we're going to get ourselves in that 50-50 balance stance, toes pointing straight ahead. And with this stance, we're going to work on a lower. So with this lower, we're squeezing our glutes, we're lowering down into that nice low lunge position. Trying to keep this knee over top of the heel, back knee under the hip, under the shoulder, so that we can rise back up and stand tall. Now keeping in mind, this is still pretty fresh in our warm-up, so if you feel comfortable only going halfway or part way down, do so. If you need a little table or counter to keep balance with, also use it as much as you need to. We want to allow ourselves to let our lower body find that depth that we're used to and or challenge our depth a little bit to our edge. So really focus on our timing here. There's no tempo per se, but we don't want to just drop into the bottom of the lunge. Take our time and think about that balanced 50-50 stance. Last but not least, we're looking at our plank to bear squat. So our plank to bear squat, very similar to our down dog, except we're going to keep those hips low. So my feet are going to be set up in my hip width or squat stance. I'm going to pull my ribs in, push the shoulders up so I'm in a good plank here. Now from here, our down dog, we pull back and up. In our bear squat, we're pulling back and down. So we're trying to shoot our hips in between our ankles, and we come straight out. We pull straight back to where we can, we push straight out. So with this kind of bear squat position, we need to really focus on that nice active shoulder position so we keep our neck, our armpits are towards the floor, almost like our lat is trying to give us a big hug as it wraps around the body. So really focus on that nice solid shoulder position before we start going back in between the heels. Now range of motion is going to be decided by our ankles, hips, and knees, plus our ability to maintain that shoulder position. So only go as far back as we can maintain that shoulder position and allow our body to kind of hit that good bottom half. So take your time with these, kind of give yourself a pause in both sides, mostly in that plank position so we can reset the shoulders and make sure we're really stable. As a quick recap, we have a dynamic triangle of 3 to 5 a side, a windmill for 3 to 5 a side, single leg good morning with rotation, 3 to 5 a side, into our standing lunge for 3 to 5 per side, and a plank to bear squat of 3 to 5 reps. Take that down, 2 rounds, rock it, just give yourself a good once over. We're gonna move on to the floor and just continue warming up that shoulder and get more skill kind of focused. All right, our next phase is gonna be primarily done on the floor. So we're gonna lay ourselves on the ground and we're gonna really say hello to that shoulder. So we're gonna start with our hands at our chest, so just outside the chest, at the shoulder width. Elbow is stacked over top of my wrist, and I'm just nice and straight through my body. If you were to look at me from the top, my head and my elbows would make a little arrow pointing straight ahead. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my shoulders forward to where I don't want them in that push-up, and then I'm going to pull my shoulders back. So I'm setting them back and down. My elbows are nice and stacked over top of my wrist. I'm going to pull my ribs and hips in, take a breath, push into that nice solid knee plank, keeping that good hollow position. And now maintaining this tension through the core, I'm going to lower forward and down, maintaining that shoulder position, leading with the chest, and then relaxing into the floor. So I want to, again, pull the shoulders to where I don't want them in the movement so I can feel that contrast. Pull back into that nice set position. Ribs, hips, glutes, so I lock everything in. Push into that knee plank. And again, coming forward and down, so I'm stacking my elbow over top of my wrist as I lower to the floor. Now from here, I can move right into my next exercise, which is that floor-facing angel hold. And I can even add in that humeral glide. So if I would like to, I pull the shoulders forward, I pull them back, I set, pull my ribs and hips in. Now I'm going to squeeze my shoulders together, lifting my elbows, holding that position, and then lower down and relax for a second. And then I'll reset that position. So I can do the humeral glide again if I like. Shoulders forward, shoulders back, ribs, hips, glutes. Squeeze the shoulders together, pull the elbows up, hands come off the floor perhaps, and I work through that little lift. So I'm really focusing on maintaining that core position. It's really easy as soon as I go to lift my elbows and hands that I break through this midsection and I almost turn it into almost like an arch up. We want to make sure we're maintaining that good little hollow and that stays nice and tight through here. So don't worry about the height of the hands coming off the ground. Focus on maintaining this core position and lifting those elbows and hands as high as you can. So again, with that, you might have those fingers still in contact with the floor. Not a big deal. Just keep working through that upper body engagement, and over time, that upper back and chest will start to open up. After the floor-facing angels, we're going to move into our laying arm extension. So we're going to bring our hands back by the hips with the palms up. My eyes will be down, my shoulders will be back and set just like they were in our push-up and our floor-facing angel hold. We're going to pull the ribs and hips in, and I'm going to press my palms to the ceiling, keeping the arms straight, and then lower down. Press up, lower down. This one's a little bit more dynamic. We're not going to hold for too long on either end, but I do suggest holding for a beat at the top and holding for a beat at the bottom, just so we can check over our position through our core and our ribs to make sure that we're still in that nice same position. So the shoulders back, ribs and hips pulled in, just nice solid positioning. From there, I'm going to keep this position on the floor. I'm going to bring my hands out to the front. Palms are down, toes together. I press the tops of my feet into the floor. I pull my ribs and glutes in, press my armpits down, and I press my palms into the ground. So from here, I'm holding this nice active position, and I'm going to maintain it as I lift one arm up off the ground, and then lower it into the floor, getting set. Lift the other arm up off the floor, and down. I'm going to work on alternating back and forth, maintaining that good tension from pinky to pinky. So really focusing on that good body position that we've been building from our humeral glide all the way to that prone shoulder raise. So that position is the same through the ribs and the shoulders in each movement set. So I want you guys to keep building off that and focusing on that core position, because by the time you get to that prone shoulder raise, that shoulder girdle is really warm, it's really ready to do what it needs to do, and now we just really isolated that core position so we can allow the shoulder to do what it needs to do. So take that down, have some fun with it. As a quick recap, we have our humeral glide to knee push-up, 3 to 5 reps. Floor-facing angel, 3 reps with a 5-second hold at the top. Laying arm extension, 5 to 10 reps. Prone shoulder raise, 6 to 10 alternating for 2 rounds. So really gonna get that core fired up, get those shoulders ready for what's to come, and then we're gonna allow us to move into a slightly more intensive practice round to get that heart rate up, get that body ready for what's to come in the work set. So pause the video, take down that upper body piece, get yourself ready. We're gonna get that heart rate jacked up just a little bit more. Okay, the practice round is here. We've got some movements to cover. So I'm gonna have a practice round set up on the bottom of the workout description. If you'd like to take that down, you can. If you'd like to change it for what you need for yourself, please do so. All right, but I'll give you a nice solid example of a good practice round for you guys to play with. The movements in our workout today consist of the burpee, the sumo deadlift high pull, the vertical jump, that power jump style, and our lunge. And then we get a rest. So the rest is key. Hardest part of the workout right there is nailing that rest. And we'll talk about it shortly and why that is. But first things first, we'll talk about the burpee. So with the burpee that we have today, we're gonna have 2 different variations. We have the full burpee and we have our squat thrust, which is a no push-up burpee. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come down, bringing the hands to the floor, pop the feet back, we lower into that nice full push position and pop to our feet. We can also take it down, stepping and stepping up into that burpee variation as well, or any combination of the 2. Now I'm going to have the burpee breakdown set up in that work set or in our practice round, and what that is basically piecing together each chunk of the burpee and just checking in with each part of the body. So our first phase of the burpee breakdown would be down to the floor. So making sure the shoulders are back, elbows are stacked, ribs are in. Second phase, we push to the knees, we check on the core. We might even take a breath here to get set. Third phase, jump the feet in so they're flat, and stand. So we're only giving ourselves about 2 to 3 seconds in each of those positions just to do a quick checklist on the core, elbow, and the shoulder positioning in our burpee. So use that if you'd like. With that little breakdown, it gives you just a moment to double check your positions to move forward well. Now the squat thrust, all right, is that non-push-up variation of the burpee. So we come down, so locking the arms in place, jump into that good plank, jump your feet in, pop up. Or we have our step back variation, which is also very handy and helpful in terms of joining those two in a nice hybrid combo. If you need to jump back, step in, step back, jump in, whatever you want to do, any combination of those two movements, you're always allowed to play with. Now, if you're working on that and you're like, I kind of want to work on the squat thrust breakdown, there's definitely a breakdown to that as well. We basically just pause in the plank for a moment. So we set the arms, hit that plank for 2 to 3 seconds, checking on the pressure through the shoulders, through the ribs. Then we jump our feet in, flat feet, stand tall. So it just gives us a chance to make sure we check that shoulder to hand orientation, that it stays over top, and now we're in good position for jumping our feet back in, and we're stable through our plank. So be my guest if you want to do a squat thrust breakdown, hold in that plank position for 2 to 3 seconds, checking that checking out the locked out elbow, strong shoulder position, and tight core position. Our next exercise is that dumbbell sumo deadlift high pull. We're going to cover that and get you ready for this work set. The next movement in our work set is the sumo deadlift high pull with the dumbbell, and we're going to alternate every 5 reps. We use this as a skill transfer exercise in our dumbbell snatch, but today we're going to use it, and I want you to think about trying to find a slightly lighter dumbbell if you have one. If not a big deal, but we want to get this into a nice flowing state. So by that I mean just kind of moving fluently from top to bottom, bottom to top. So the movement itself, we get ourselves into that good set position like our deadlift. My hips are going to be a little lower, my chest will be up. I'm going to push those legs and open up those hips and knees well, opening up into that nice high pull. So the legs and the hips do the work. The arm just kind of guides the momentum and continues the momentum into that upper row position. So I come back and down into that positioning, push through the legs, come back down. I'm trying to keep the elbow higher than the hand, so I'm not trying to get the dumbbell way up here. I'm just pulling it to the sternum and back down. And you'll notice where my hand comes. So if I flip sides and do a nice little row, the dumbbell is slightly outside my chest, and my elbow is to that nice high and outside position. I'm not trying to keep it to the center of my body, internally rotating the shoulder. I'm trying to keep it up and out. So I get that nice open chest, open pec position. So that's going to feel a lot more comfortable in terms of our flow in that pull. But again, with this movement, we're trying to keep it fluid and smooth. So what we're looking at and looking for is that nice smooth flow. Up, hit the hip, pull back down. Push up, come back down. So as I hit the hip on the way down, that's when I send my hips back. Pull, pull back. Pull, pull back. So I'm trying to really focus on smoothing out the transition from the hip. So as I come up, I bring the hand down. I'm breathing in as I do so. As the arm straightens, comes to the hip, I pull the hip back and down to that next rep. Drive, as I smooth that out, I move into that next flowy rep. So if you can, try and smooth that transition out from top to bottom. All right, there's no need to hold at the top position, just hit that end range, come back down. If you are going to pause somewhere, pause at the hip so that we can take it down smooth, drive. Little pause, down, boom. Take a little pause here so that we can get the arm straight and brace before we go into the hinge. Our next exercise is our power jump, and we've been working with this drill as a jump drop / jump drop with rebound. So in terms of this, we can play around with that in our practice round. We come up onto the toes, we come down, and come back up, and we land in that little power position. In the workout, what we're going to work on today is just hitting that power position, jumping vertical, does not have to be a max effort, and then pulling into that nice power position. So for these, try and link 3 to 5 reps, If you're a pretty comfortable jumper, try and do 5 to 10, but then give yourself a little break, and then try and do some more. Don't try and go for the whole minute, all right? Give yourself a little break in movement, just a tiny little rest, and then get back into it, just so we can keep our movements clean. So I'm gonna fire off about 3 reps here so you guys can see them as is. I get myself ready, I pull back, pull back, and land on that last one nice and soft. So again, I'm not trying to jump super high, I'm just trying to absorb, be nice and explosive, absorb, explosive, but I'm not really shooting for a ton of height. I'm just trying to get into that nice idea of extension through the legs and the hips. I'm also not squatting, all right? I'm pulling into my power position so that I can answer back into that next rep without going below parallel. Play with those, they're extremely gassing, all right? So give yourself, like I say, 3 to 5 reps, little break, or 5 to 10 reps, little break, and then get back into it again. But focus on that good, clean jumping movement. After that, we have the lunge. We're using an unloaded lunge today. So with the lunge, you have your choice of doing forward or back. At your own pace, just steady state it. You get that good movement, alternating lunge back and forth, working to our range that best suits us. Now, we can also go back in terms of that lunge, stepping back and lowering into that position, finding that good balance, and really working on our range of motion as well. It's up to you if you want to play around forward or back, or even mix it up with the rounds. All right, you can do that. But pick one for the minute, work that strong, then if you want to flip to the next one in the next round, you can do that as well. Key points here, although the back lunge might be a little bit more challenging for balance, it does allow us to maintain a really good stacked vertical shin. So if we struggle with maintaining a vertical shin, this can be a really good option in terms of finding our distance, finding our step, and allowing us to control that front leg a little bit more. With our front lunge, we have to remember that when we step forward, our momentum forward stops when we take the step, and then we come down. We want to make sure that we're not continuing that forward momentum as we do that lunge, all right? Yes, we can do a variation of that to work on ankle mobility, but we don't want to get into a habit of lunging like that. We want to step forward, lower down, step back. So it gives you a good chance to kind of focus on that movement. You have a minute to take down whatever you can. Coming out of those vertical jumps, it's going to be tough. So focus on movement quality, not necessarily speed in that lunge, but if you start to feel more ready to go, then start ramping up the pace if you like. But it is going to be pretty warm, we'll say. We'll use warm as the word, moving into those lunges. Last but not least, we have our rest. So in this rest, I want you really to focus on recovery and focus on your breathing. So take some time, even if you have to put your hands on your belly or your hips, to feel that breath going into the belly and low ribs, so expanding outwards. Breathing into the nose for a count of 3 to 4, perhaps even holding for a couple seconds, and then exhale fully through the mouth to get rid of any of that nasty stuff inside. So inhaling, little hold, inhaling, little hold, long, slow exhale. So taking that rest minute to really focus on recovery and not focus how tired or how gassed our legs are or wherever our mind happens to wander and jump to. Really try and zone it in on our breathing and our movement. So if we have to, you can move your legs around a little bit, you can move around, nothing too crazy, but I want you to primarily focus on your breathing. So that can be a really good focal point for us in this style of work, because we need to get ourselves ready to tackle those burpees on the top of the next round. Now I also encourage on our third round, when our workout is done, even though we're done moving with our lunge, embrace the last minute of rest in that workout in the third round and focus your attention on recovery like you have a fourth round. You don't have a fourth round. but focus that last rest minute as if you did have to do something in that next minute. And that'll really get you in the zone to help focus on staying in the game and working that recovery. Regardless of how fatigued you are, it'll always have you zoned into recovery. Now, lots of stuff to take down in this workout, you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it. I love workouts like this. They're challenging, they're super hard, but really, you just put forward what you can in that minute. If you have to break things down and rest every once in a while, that's okay. You have a minute to do what you can. So play with it, have fun with it. You can even challenge yourself by keeping track of how many reps in each exercise you get each round, and that way you can see where you're recovering, where you're not recovering, whatever it happens to be. It just gives you a kind of a focal point to see where your reps maybe drop down or stay consistent. So enjoy this Friday work set. Miranda and Jarod, have a fantastic birthday. I hope you enjoy. We'll come at you tomorrow, you guys, for another fun-filled Saturday of work sets. Have a great day, you guys. Bye.